All right. Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Michelle. I am in Kansas City. I have two screens going right now, so that should be interesting. I am on YouTube Live over here and TikTok over here. Oh, you know what? I do need to restart the live real quick, though, because I forgot to adjust something. Or unless just going to let me do that here. Give me just a second to check this out. Okay, give me just a second, everyone. I'm actually going to restart this live here on this end. Let's go ahead. Okay. So we have that going. We have this going. All right, that's recording like it's supposed to. Love that. Okay, wonderful. Looks like this. Let's adjust that there. See how this goes. A little further up, actually. Hi, everybody. How are you? Okay. I think we are where we need to be with this. And then if I go ahead and go over here, hi everybody, I'm doing some testing real quick. So if you all are used to watching me on live, doing readings and that kind of thing, we're gonna do a little bit of that today, but I'm also gonna be recording the episode for the very first episode for my new podcast. So thank you all so much for joining. If you all wanna tap the screen, so I'm actually filming both for YouTube over here and also for TikTok, but I will be talking primarily to the TikTok audience. If you all are wanting to go ahead and get started here, if you all want to tap the screen for me, when we get to 500 likes is when I'm going to go ahead and get started with our collective reading. I'm going to go ahead and do a collective reading for tarot and psychic reads like I normally do. But then I'm going to go ahead and move into the filming of the podcast. And I'll be explaining exactly how all that works. So the podcast will be, I'm aiming to do 3 episodes a week. So this is going to be the very, very first episode of recording it. So hang with me as I'm getting everything kind of situated and set up here. But you are going to get to see kind of the behinds of recording the podcast in addition to doing some reads in between and that kind of thing. When we get to 500 likes, yeah, Jenny, I'm excited too. When we get to 500 likes, I'm going to go ahead and get started with that collective read here on TikTok. I'm going to go ahead and go over here real quick and just make sure that everything is looking as it needs to with our recording. And then we'll go from there. What's so interesting, I'm trying to figure out why the recording volume wants to be so crazy at this moment. So basically, if you all want to have a general idea of what this is, yay, 500, great. I'm going to go ahead and start a collective reading in just a second. You lost two special. I've never had a reading including this. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and move this back here. I'm going to go ahead and turn down all of this and get this all adjusted sound-wise, guys. And then from there, we'll go ahead and move in to everything else. Let's see. All right. I'm just testing real quick, testing the microphone. Okay, turn that down, turn that up. All right, how are we doing here? Testing. Now it looks like a little too, okay, there we go. There we go. Oh, that's a little much. Sorry, guys. Just let me adjust this for Audacity here so we don't have a terrible sound quality for the podcast. Yes, everyone, I would love to read for you. So I'm going to do a collective read first. So a collective read just basically means it's going to apply to multiple people in the room, not just one. So I'm going to be going ahead and working on that first. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and we'll do that collective read. And then I'm going to actually jump into the filming of this podcast. Before I get started with this podcast, I'll kind of go more into it in a little bit. And we'll do this collective read in just a second. I do want you all to know that this podcast, what I'm recording, is very much all about so many things. And I will explain this more in just a second, but it does have some sensitive content in it. So if you have kids around or, if you're just sensitive to certain things in general, I just want you to be aware of that ahead of time, just so we don't have any issues. I'll say that once more again before I start reading, but it's really just like writing a lot of things down. Out of curiosity, how many people have seen the documentary Smiling Happy People, I believe is what it's called? The documentary on Amazon, the Duggars, like exposing the Duggar family in Arkansas. How many have seen that? Okay. So some of this podcast haven't seen it, you just started it. Okay. So some of that has to do, and you don't have to have watched it to see this, but some of that has to do with my life. Okay. So the podcast actually is going to be telling a lot of stories that I think that are all very relatable to people at certain parts. And I'll be going through all of that, but that is kind of where it starts out. If any of that is sensitive to you for any reason, the idea of talking about like religion or talking about cults, basically, then I'm just letting you know that now. But this episode won't be too crazy sensitive in the grand scheme of things, but it will be over time. So, but we're going to be talking about that first. But we're going to do the collective and then that. Okay, let me go ahead and move this over here, this microphone, make sure the sound looks good. Perfect. Okay, I think it's picking everything up just fine. Are you in Georgia? I'm not. I'm in Missouri, actually. So let's go ahead and get shuffled, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and start with this collective read. So this collective read, if you're new here into readings and everything in general, basically I have multiple gifts is what I like to call them, but just basically ability to tune into energy, tune into kind of people's emotional states, what's currently going on, and helping them have clarity about certain things in their life so they can make the steps and the adjustments that they want to make. So when I'm talking about a collective read, what I'm doing here is I'm tapping into the collective energy. So this is going to mean something like it will apply to multiple people in the room. Thanks, Emma. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jana. I appreciate you. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and tap into all of this here. This will apply to multiple people in the room, not just one. So take it if it resonates for you. If you don't, if it doesn't, that's no problem at all. If you all aren't into reads but want to listen to me create this podcast, you're welcome to come right back or just continue listening. It's totally up to you. So let me go ahead and get shuffled here, and I'm going to go ahead and tune into this energy and see what we have coming through. Okay. I actually feel like a shocking amount of calm for a lot of people in the room. It doesn't feel like your life is necessarily calm, but for some of you, for whatever reason today, you're able to step into a more of a calmness around what you're going through. There's almost this feeling of like things coming into being where you're like, things are about to get better for you. Like, you just feel it coming. Even if you see like nothing on the surface right now telling you that things are about to get so much better for you, you just feel like they are. So even though things are really chaotic right now, they're getting rearranged. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's going to happen here. If this is applying to you, you're working on or doing a really good job at starting to release some of that control and let yourself know, okay, you know what? Like, I'm never going to know exactly what's coming. And so therefore it's better for me to not try to control it, because what if I'm blocking something that I really want to come in? So that's the first thing I'm getting right off the bats, but we'll go ahead and see like what the, right off the bat, not off the bats. We'll go ahead and see what the cards have to say here. Yeah, you're really balanced right now. I think for a while you all were kind of in an energy of feeling kind of depressed, stubborn about certain actions that need to be taken, stubborn about the direction that your life was going. So maybe you were feeling depressed, or maybe you were feeling lethargic. Maybe you were feeling like it was just really a challenge to start moving forward on tasks that you knew you needed to get done. And part of that, and what I want to encourage you in, is it's so easy in our society to tell ourselves how lazy we're being or how we're procrastinating or whatever. And what I like to explain to people is actually that thinking time, that lag time before taking action on what you know you need to take action on, many times it's part of the process. And it's not necessarily procrastinating, it's actually you doing what you need to do to get your mind around exactly what needs to happen. Timing matters. So sometimes we'll feel stalled out on certain things because we need that for the time. And so, oh, good, Emma. Yay, I needed this. You were super accurate. Good, I'm so glad. So sometimes we really need that for the time, and we need this room to just be able to like allow ourselves to think through what our next steps are. We know the action to take, yes, but at the same time, knowing the right timing, knowing like letting yourself process and think through it is part of the process. It's not laziness, it's not stubbornness, it's not procrastination, it's not being lethargic. It's actually part of the process. It's really important. So if that's been happening for you, I don't want you to judge yourself. The other thing I'm seeing here too, though, is what's really incredible is that now you've had that waiting time and now you're ready more and more to spring into action. And what that waiting time allowed you to do was find a level of emotional balance. So that level of emotional balance is going to feel like calm in the storm, honestly. I think you were waiting to feel that for a long time, to feel a sense of like, okay, like even though I don't know what's coming, even though everything feels chaotic right now, I'm trusting and getting to that place of trust, and getting to that place of intuitively knowing things are about to get better is freeing up a lot of mental space for you to start moving forward and to start taking action. So that is really incredible as well. So that's what I'm seeing for a collective read, everyone. I do see really good things around the corner. Just work on keeping that balance. So balance in how you take care of yourself, balance in trusting divine timing, balance in trusting yourself, and balance and not over giving to the people around you is really important too. I'm so glad that helped you all. Okay, so here's what we're going to do now, everyone. We are going to be diving into the creation of this podcast. So my plan, oh, good, Emma, I'm so glad. My plan with diving into this creation of this podcast is to, first of all, good, Karen, oh, you're welcome, is to, first of all, let you all know that I will be doing personal reads for tarot and everything. I'll be doing them here on live halfway through. But we'll go ahead and get started with the recording first. I love the idea. I know a lot of you have followed me for a while on here. And I love the idea of taking you all along on the journey as we're doing the podcast. I want you all to be able to see me record it. The podcast will get released on Spotify and Apple over the next, I would say, like week or so. But I would really love, first of all, for you all just to be part of this. So I plan to record every single episode live. Here I have YouTube live going as well, which is my first time on YouTube live. But you're welcome to subscribe there if you want to, or just hang out and follow me here on TikTok. My goal is to be doing 3 episodes a week. So I'll be here fairly regularly, getting all that recording done. But I'm excited and I really want to do it with you all every step of the way. So here is how we're going to do this. Let me minimize and let this record. And I'm going to go ahead and go over to my little writing thing down here. So just a reminder, everybody, this podcast is actually like me telling a lot of my story. If you have watched the documentary about the Duggars that came out recently on Amazon Prime, the smiling happy people or whatever it's called. That does closely relate to my background and where and how I grew up. But I want to tell a lot of my life story through this podcast. I have found that the best way for a lot of us to download information and digest things is actually through story format. And so I have things like I just want to share, and this is just kind of my story. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the recording of this. And then midway through, I'm going to stop. If you guys have any questions about anything I read, you can tell me your thoughts. I do want your feedback. And then from there, we'll keep this going. So and after that, we'll do reads in the middle. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this all set up, and we will get this started. Okay. Make sure that Audacity is recording how we need it to. Put the microphone closer. Okay. Wonderful. I think that looks like where we need it to be. All right. You do a little sip of coffee. And we will get started. Are you all excited? Because I'm excited. And feel free to tap the screen, guys. I'll be looking over here a lot because I'll be reading this, but feel free to tap the screen if anything is resonating or you think it's interesting or whatever. It just helps me know and gauge as we go. You all can be like my little focus group audience today. Okay. All right. Is anyone else nervous? I'm so nervous. It's so funny. Getting on live every day is no big deal to me. But something about actually recording a full-blown podcast that needs to be production level freaks me out. So let's do this though. Move this a little closer. All right. All right, let's do this. Thank you. All right. We're going to actually hold this and that'll make me feel better. Sorry guys, let me check the sound one more time. How are we doing now? Okay, that looks good. Sound level wise. Perfect. All right. Oh, hey, I'm Michelle Box. You might know me on social media as TheBlondeFixer. I'm turning 30 in August, and I decided I wanted to write what has happened in the last 15 years so I could remember it and set the record straight. I'm in a phase of life where I want people to know who I am, not just the persona I've put on to my 50,000 plus followers across all platforms. And after let's try that again. I'm in a phase of life where I want people to know who I am, not just the persona I put on to my 50,000 plus followers across all platforms. After being media trained at the age of 15, I've had to undo and learn how to really be fully honest and authentic, even if I know it's not diplomatic or a good girl persona. I'm done letting anyone make me feel I have to be a certain image to fit in with society or for professional reasons or to protect people around me. The world has changed. This podcast and telling my story is me shedding all of those media training layers that were put on me so young, and my way of ending the gossip, narrative, and BS that people have tried to say about me. In this podcast, you're going to hear my stories and behind the scenes of becoming a political operative at 15 years old, being homeschooled, being raised in a fundamentalist Baptist church, the media attention, and my time in journalism, real estate, entrepreneurship, my relationships, my travels, lessons learned, toughest and funniest moments, and how it's created who I am now. I'll also be talking about some pretty heavy things. There will be many parts of this podcast that feel very true crime. I'll always try to give some sort of heads up when we're about to cover something dark. Names will be changed to protect the innocent and to protect me from the not at all innocent suing me. This is going to expose a lot of people, and I've been waiting for this moment, and it's my own sense of justice after being quiet for so long. So let's do this. She is 15 years old. Isn't that so awesome? awesome, please give a warm welcome to Michelle Box." The lady at the podium turned to me. I stood up from my chair, adjusted my black pantsuit, and walked up confidently to the podium. I looked out at the crowd of over 500 people. My first speech ever. There was no part of me that felt nervous, partially because I had been prepped in detail for my political mentor, and partially because in front of a crowd had always felt like home. I had always had an interest in politics. As young as 5 years old, I would watch Fox News Sunday and meet the press with my dad. My parents would occasionally discuss politics and policy in the car on the way to church, and I would dive in with my little opinion, even when I didn't understand what they were talking about. My dad, with a degree in electrical engineering, encouraged me to have opinions. He wanted us kids to be able to think critically for ourselves and would often tell me and my siblings riddles to get our brains turning. We would rarely get in trouble for saying no to something my dad wanted us to do, as long as we had a logical explanation for not doing it. As a kid, I remember not ever feeling like I fully fit in. I grew up in the suburbs of Kansas City, Missouri, was homeschooled, and went to a fundamentalist Baptist church with my parents and siblings every Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday evening. Our family and the people I grew up around emulated the ideal of Midwestern Christian conservative families. The house I grew up in is one my parents had built when they got married. As a kid, it looked massive to me. On a cul-de-sac, the house was blue, 2 stories, and had a beautiful wraparound porch with white pillars and a porch swing. I was outgoing and had a lot of friends to play with in my neighborhood, church, and activities I was involved in. But like I said, I always felt different. My parents and siblings were brunette. I was blonde. My friends enjoyed dolls and playing house. I would rather be running around outside catching bugs. When forced to play with dolls or house, I would regularly either put myself in charge of creating paperwork for the dolls if we were playing orphanage, or make myself a mayor if we were playing town. When we would play town, I would create an entire little economy with fake money where everyone had their own little businesses that they provided the town. I charged taxes and created business licenses. The only girly thing about me was how much I loved dresses. Mom made special shorts to put under them so I would stop flashing the world while I ran around outside playing sports in the neighborhood, having swinging contests, and playing with bugs, snakes, lizards, and whatever else I could find. The thing I loved most as a kid was reading. At 8 years old, a standardized test came back as me having a 12th grade reading level. That year, I had polished off the 500-page unabridged version of Louisa May Alcott's Little Women for fun. I was also very outspoken, which did not coincide with the very Christian conservative church we grew up in. It may have been the 90s, but for Christian conservatives, it was still the 50s. Many of the parents wanted their girls to be quiet and not get too sweaty before Sunday service while the boys could run around and cause chaos. Okay, taking a quick break, guys. Gonna have to drink some water and coffee here. How's everyone doing so far? I know this is a very different format from what I normally do in terms of readings. But we can go ahead and do some readings real quick, but I am really curious about how you all are feeling so far. Are you enjoying listening to it? All of the thoughts. We're about to get more into like the May, you're the best, I love you. We're about to get more into like bigger details here about, I mean, like I mentioned for that documentary, for those of you who have seen it, about the Duggars and everything, we're about to get more into those details in just a little bit, that I think a lot of people will find interesting if you enjoyed that documentary. So, oh, thank you. Thanks for cheering me on, guys. I appreciate it. All right, so let's go ahead and do some opportunities here for some reads. If you guys are wanting to get on the list for personal reads, I will do that in the middle, and I'll do it in the end as well. Thanks, May. Thanks, Jenny. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the list real quick. If you guys are wanting to get on my list for reads right now, so tarot and psychic reads, you absolutely can. I'm going to go ahead and give everybody the opportunity to get on the list. If you don't want to get on the list, that's totally fine. But I will continue the episode right after this. I just want to give a little room here. Oh my gosh, you grew up in the same thing? Oh my gosh. You probably have a heck of a story with that stuff too. That's awesome. Did you watch the documentary, Becca? Let me know if you watched it. The Duggar documentary, The Smiling Happy People. You did too. There's a lot of us. So my cousin was actually in the documentary. That's why I was asking if you guys had seen it. Fascinating. I'm glad that your family is completely different now, Becca. Mine is in a lot of respects, for sure. Well, definitely. If you guys are wanting to get on the list, by the way, for any reads right now, I'll be doing some at the end as well. It's $15, Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal to TheBlondeFixer. If you guys are wanting to get on the list, happy to do some reads for you. The documentary was hard to watch. It was very hard for me to watch as well. It was kind of validating a way to see it and be like, yep, we were in a legit cult. Yes, that is also very real. Very, very real. I wasn't, so my family, the way we worked, we were like in it, but not in it, if that makes sense. So, we were very, very, very Baptist, very into all of that stuff. We idolized the Duggars, but we weren't like 100% ATI, but everybody around me pretty much was. And so it was like, I was basically in it without being in it. But still a lot of the same rules, a lot of the same structures, and everything that I grew up with was because of Gothard and Duggars and everything else. Fascinating. Okay, do we have anyone who's wanting to get on the list for any reads during this little break? If not, I'm going to go ahead and continue. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and continue. I remember my dad took my brother to a Gothard conference. Fascinating. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let me make sure everything's still looking good here. Audacity is working for me. Audacity is not like a weird word. It's a audio recording system, if you guys were wondering. Okay, that is going. Pick this back up. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and start. Okay. Boys will be boys, while girls should be ladylike, was the unspoken mantra. One time, I was outside before evening service. Wow. Before evening service with some of the boys in the church, while most of the girls stayed inside so they wouldn't get their dresses sweaty. The boys were trying to drop rocks on frogs' heads in the creek, and I was angry. They wouldn't stop, and I couldn't help but think about how terrifying and painful it must be for the frogs. So I remember that I started throwing rocks at the boys' heads to teach them a lesson. I got in a ton of trouble, obviously, and my parents understood my motives. I don't like this whole line. I'm going to get rid of all of this part. Okay, ignore that part, guys. I'm going to just adjust that later. It's fun to record on live. Okay, we'll adjust that later. Okay. Because of the Christian conservative environment we were raised in, there were a lot of stay-at-home moms, including my own. And the expectation of many of my friends we were raised around is that we all would be too. Like every good homeschooled girl around me, I was in music lessons. After all, that was the monetizable skill permitted in these homeschooled Christian cultures for girls because you could teach music lessons out of your home. Starting at 4, I played classical piano for 8 years, violin for 2, and voice lessons for 1. From as early as 8, I argued with my mom saying that a stay-at-home mom is absolutely not who I would become. Because I couldn't relate to the women around me, I remember mostly looking up to the men. I thought the conversations my dad would have with his friends were much more interesting than the women would have. One of my friend's dads was a lawyer, and I remember thinking how incredible that was. I grew up watching The Cosby Show before we knew he was deeply problematic and looked up to Claire Huxtable. At the time, I didn't have women around me who had careers, and I thought she was a total boss. From very little, I knew I wanted to become a writer or a lawyer, and I definitely was not going to be staying at home, raising kids, or teaching music lessons like all the women I was raised around. Unlike most girls, I also didn't grow up focusing on my looks, particularly because I don't remember anyone around me telling me I was pretty. Not saying it didn't happen, but it definitely wasn't emphasized enough for me to remember. I remember one Sunday, Mom and Dad were getting us kids ready for church. Mom randomly said, "We should have nicknames for the kids." She looked at my brother. "He's handsome." She looked at my sister. "She's a princess." And Michelle is tender-hearted. I can still feel my sadness at that. My mom probably meant it unintentionally, and I was abnormally empathetic to everyone and everything for my age, even down to bugs. So the nickname made sense, but I took it to mean I wasn't pretty and that she had to come up with another nickname to describe me. So my looks weren't something I focused on. I was a free-spirited, outspoken kid with an opinion about almost everything. I loved writing and completed a 60-page book that I wrote around age 10. I endlessly read everything from literature to Nancy Drew. In a Christian conservative environment, I stood out. After all, the Bible emphasized that women were to be submissive to men, to not speak up at home or in church. Female pastors, Bible study leaders, or any place a woman could be perceived as having authority over a man was considered immoral. Women were to not have intense opinions, not to question, and definitely not to be outspoken. Many of the girls I was raised around were only taught basic math, science, and other subjects because they were seen to not need much of an education, since their godly duty was to be stay-at-home moms, wives, and homemakers. Instead, they would spend hours a day on music lessons and learning homemaking skills like sewing and cooking. Lots of these families believed birth control was the same as abortion, and they looked up to the Duggar family on TLC, who had 17 plus kids and kept having more and more. You may have heard about the recent Amazon documentary exposing them on Shiny Happy People. My cousin is actually in that documentary. There was a mentality called quiverful that the Duggars and many families I was around aspired to. Quiverful meant that you were supposed to have as many kids as possible to make sure that you were putting lots of Christians into the world, with the goal to make God the focus everywhere. I knew multiple families with over 8 kids. The highest number I knew personally was a family that had 14. Many of the girls I knew helped raise their younger siblings because there were way too many for the parents to properly parent. Some parents even set up a buddy system, espoused by the Duggar family, where an older sibling was in charge of taking care of a younger one. So a lot of these girls didn't have a childhood as a result or a proper education. After all, why would they need one? Their only mission in life was decided for them, to submit to their future husbands, be a stay-at-home mom and wife, homeschool their kids, and teach music lessons to other homeschool kids as long as it could be done from the home. Okay. Hey, Heather. So basically what I'm recording, everyone, is a podcast. I'm like writing through, or all your videos are uploaded on the same day. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Anyways, we're just recording a little podcast here. It's just like an actual real story if you watch the Duggar documentary. Shiny Happy People. I kept saying smiling happy people, but it's Shiny Happy People. I'm talking a little bit about that, but I'll be going into lots and lots of details over time as well. Just talking about this kind of stuff, and we'll dive into it over time. That's where I'm going to stop in terms of recording for the podcast today. If you guys are wanting to get on my list for reads, we can absolutely do that. I'll go ahead and save this here. Let's see. Save this project, so we're good to go. Some of the recent videos were uploaded on the same day. Not all of them were. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this in here. save this audio file, and we'll go ahead and move into some readings. If you guys are wanting to have readings with me today here in live, it's $15, Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal to TheBlondeFixer. Thank you all for listening to that. Hopefully it was interesting to you all. We'll continue doing this throughout. Aw, thanks, Julie. I appreciate it. All right, I'm typing out how to get on the list, everyone, if you're wanting to get on the list for a read. My week has been amazing, just as you said. Yay, Julie, I'm so glad. That's awesome. Good, Karen, thank you. Guys, I appreciate it. I do need like the feedback as we go. And I know you all have been watching me for so long, so I really do appreciate it. As long as it's interesting to listen to, I'm happy to hear it. And we will, hold on, sorry, I have to save this file because I just don't want it to delete itself. But yeah, we'll keep doing these. I'm planning on doing 3 episodes a week. So I'll be filming them here on live and then starting to release them on actually like Spotify, Apple, and all those places. One. Save. Right. Okay. If you all want to get on the list for some reads, it's $15. Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal to TheBlondeFixer. I'm gonna go ahead and stop my YouTube filming over here actually as well and stream.